Hi, marketers. This is Dot, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is Stefan Bercher, founder and director at clicks.xyz, which is a very nice domain name. We'll see the story behind that. But apart from the story, is the discussion of today's topic: effective performance marketing strategies for startups. So, if you're a startup, you want to strap it. Stefan, welcome. How are you doing?
Hey there, Dots. Yeah, I'm doing very well. So thank you very much for the invite, to be honest. And I know we had to reschedule a few times, but here we are now, and I'm honored to be part of your podcast series. Thank you.
For sure, for sure. For those who don't know you, do you want to tell us a bit about your background, about yourself, about XYZ? Why did you come
Sure,
up with that?
sure. I give you a little spiel about myself. So originally I'm from Berlin, Germany. I came over
Oh,
to the
nice.
UK when I was
You
21.
guys are watching the Euros live?
We are watching the Euros, and in our household, quick side story, it's a very England versus Germany kind of,
Nice.
it's an important game on tonight actually. So we shall see
Yeah.
how that pans out. It might actually be Germany
Yeah.
England, but in the next game, whatever. Um, but yeah, so I came over to the UK when I was 22. Initially stayed or planned on staying for 10 months. Well, that was 2003. So we're looking at 20 years plus. Well, yeah, basically it's 50-50 now of my life. I've been living in two countries. Came over to the UK to predominantly study. So I studied, ended up working for a few agencies between the South Coast and London. So I kept commuting. Started to work for big travel companies, various startups, etc. And then back in 2015, I thought it might make sense for me to do my own journey and kind of set myself up and started setting up my own company and serviced clients I then gathered over time with very much the same online marketing, performance marketing services, which is basically an industry I've fallen into by accident almost like a few years into my working career and sort of like stuck to it, and very much then got deeper and deeper into the weeds of performance marketing. But yeah, now I've been sort of like running my own show, running my own business for basically coming up to 10 years now, with all the highs and lows as you have as a consultant slash freelancer, um, trying to grow and retracting and growing over the years, etc. And but yes, this is a great journey and something I love looking back on and wouldn't change a thing. And the moment when that happened, which we can maybe discuss later in the podcast, was also a moment that I didn't just decide, oh, I want to go freelancing. There were moments that sort of triggered me to do so. And yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. And as for the the business I then set up was click.xyz.
Yes.
And the name really is the funny one. And often enough I have to spell it out to people and what's your email address? What's your business name? And so I have to repeat it a few times. And the main story is when I set up my business, I wanted to have something easy, but something creative. And because I always click with my mouse and on my keyboards, etc., I thought, oh, click would be kind of cool, digital and kind of walking and being productive, right? Um, and then I thought, okay, what's a funny way of writing click? And there's a few click companies in the UK that already written the way it's pronounced. And I came up with a QLICK writing. And the .xyz, that's actually more meaningful because that was the only domain suffix that was available.
I am.
Or put it this way, no, that I liked. And then I
Yeah.
thought, well, the XYZ could stand for, you know, something else. So click is like the entity, and within that we've got XYZ. We've got different services, service A, B, C, XYZ, whatever. Well, all within a
Yeah.
performance, online marketing perspective, etc. That only dawned on me years beyond that,
Yeah.
which it kind of made sense now looking back because I have now multiple services under the Click umbrella. So it's like Click.xyz. So
Yeah.
multiple things with a parent company. So that's kind of cool. But that was kind of by luck, and now it's kind of got more of a meaning, years on.
Yeah. Makes sense. Stefan, that's a great backdrop. And yeah, I was thinking that XYZ thing was like kind of like how Amazon also says, they have this arc between A and Z.
Yeah.
So they sell everything. So you do
It,
everything.
It's more common now. I've seen it like quite a few businesses with XYZ. The only downside is that your email often when I write emails to new prospects ends up in their spam because it's just such an odd email address or domain. And I'm like, oh, why did I?
Yeah, it's gonna
You know,
it's gonna take some
sometimes I
time.
have to send kind reminders. Oh, by the way, did you get my email? So, oh, I did. I actually it arrived in my spam. I'm so sorry. I kind of had a hunch that this might be the case, but
Yeah.
that's the only downside. It might look creative, but there's a technical downside to that.
No,
And
no,
I can live with it. Happens
I
rarely, but it does happen.
exactly. It's gonna get better. I mean, a few phases of that as well, and some of that I may reflect as we go into the episode here. But my next question is really about efficiency with startups. So less is more, right? But I think sometimes that less is more can also be to our detriment because we are not innovative enough. We stick to what works and don't listen to the changing landscape of the market, whether it's from a product perspective or even with product marketing perspective for any startup. And one of my career hobbies these days is becoming a go-to-market advisor. Whether it's free, whether it's paid, it's just helping people to figure out where that balance is. But from your own perspective, what are some of the common mistakes you see people make when they are trying to research their audience or researching customer journey to run performance marketing? What are some of the real mistakes that you see people make? Maybe your top two or something.
Yeah, I guess on the startups to sort of rephrase this one is I think startups in general is a funny one to work with, and I've worked with quite a fair share of London-based startups in different industries. The beauty about working with startups is everything is just so fast, right? So today you run this campaign, and then tomorrow you just suggest X, Y, Z, literally, because of findings of learning, etc. You quickly set up additional landing pages to increase conversion rates, etc., etc. There's a very fast pace and lots of people wanting to try everything very quickly. So that's kind of cool. Often enough too quickly, but I'd rather have this one than sending traffic to a stagnant site where I've got zero influence on, or I may can share opinions, but they may never heard, or the site may never change. So working with startup is good. In that sense, from a performance marketing perspective, and also because they're already in the game, they have some funding, they want to drive some traffic, they obviously have a product market fit for the most part. Otherwise, they wouldn't run PPC. So it's quite a good match there for me to tap myself in there and to help them scale, their performance marketing. And I've done this a few times, be it internal teams, which I then kind of like literally handed over them to them internally, before we then started working with another startup as such, So that's really interesting.
So one of the things that uh, you mentioned something there. So I'm part of a startup, maybe two startups that are not funded. Because I agree with you. The startup is funded, there's product market fit. It's easy to go to market there, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think some of the mistakes that I'm trying to allude to there is connected to, I wouldn't say that there are no mistakes on funded startups as well, but there are also mistakes on startups that are bootstrapping. So what are some of the challenges you find, which are kind of like mistakes you find working with on both sides? Let's put it that way. So what are some of the challenges you find working with funded startups on their PPC thinking and approach? And what are some of the mistakes that you found, if you pick one top mistake that you found working with uh, bootstrapped startups? Because obviously, for example, bootstrap startups, they don't have budgets, so they're kind of like in your face. Even if they give you a penny, they want to see that bank tomorrow, bank for the
Yeah,
buck.
yeah,
So things like that. So tell us from your experience, what are the challenges faced from both worlds?
yeah. If I think of, and I had a few actually bootstrapped startups I work with. The challenge is there. Okay, so you've got the funded ones where everything is just like powerhouse of everything. The bootstrap ones are different in the way. Obviously, they're not funded, and there's less of the pace, but there's more passion. But the challenge is always is when specifically running performance marketing campaigns, be it Google Ads, be it Bing Ads, be it Meta, that often enough there's a really high expectation to make that pot of money work really, really hard. And in an early stage, and why that may be possible There's still
Yeah.
like a certain considerable length of time required for this to be possible. So then there's number one. There's probably also little amounts of patience in order to get to this 6-7 ROAS, in order very quickly. That often enough doesn't work because we don't have the time. And for a bootstrap startup, it's often enough is a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because they need the money now, kind of thing. And then
Yeah.
the other thing is, which was one of my experiences, was that I guess that although there was product market fit, the product was so new that it still required education to that
Yes.
new audience.
Demand generation. That's right.
So this one business I worked with a couple of years back, beautiful business in the wellness space.
Yeah.
It was a device to, I guess, help you meditate and
Yeah.
to keep calm and these sort of things, right? Very, very amazing technology, very, very amazing. But because it was so amazing that the average user, which we were selling the product to, had a lot of questions. There was a lot of traffic to the site because they were into the stuff. But then when they came to the site, there was a lot of questions, or maybe there was an issue because of the price point, and they were more like, how does it work? And
Yeah.
what are the benefits? And it was kind of like sort of on the side, but even so, the user had safe, and it didn't matter how many blog posts we put out, and it didn't matter how much explainer pages we put out there. The user was still like, so how does it work? And there were lots of questions, and that was like quite challenging to keep that PPC spend. I remember that like it was yesterday, like as efficient as possible, while the demand was there. So eventually we went down the route of like, do heavy remarketing, etc., which worked a lot better, but we didn't quite have volume naturally
Yeah.
that way. But that was a better, I guess, from a PPC strategy, that was a better angle. But he obviously needed to have the audience in the first place. So it is a bit like a catch-22, but at the same time, that was a better fit for that product, for that business.
I like the one you landed with here, and I'm going to ask a whole question around that. But guys, we'll be right back quickly, and then we'll break down how to increase conversion rates, which might help, better apply
Yep.
marketing resources for performance or even demand generation for startups. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. So, Stefan, before that quick break, I was talking about diving deep into the concept of conversion rate optimization, and you had given a very good example, and I would like to really stick to that. Um, there are many things you can do, including like gamification and even the way you know design the demand capture and so on and so forth, in order to at least increase the conversion rate, which in some cases, maybe in most cases, is directly proportional to the cost per conversion reducing. So, what are some of the techniques that you've seen with people running PPC campaigns on landing pages or experiences, or even if you are doing HTML ads where the ad activates within the ad, where the ad activates within the ad? Kind of correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, what are some of the things that you see? What are some of the best practices for startups to look at? Again, because startups are where they are, they sometimes are like buy now, buy now, buy now, because they need to make money
Yeah.
ASAP.
And
And it's not like, they're not going to go through the soft style, let's date before we get married. No, let's get married immediately. So what are some of the best practices that you've seen, whether you are funded or not funded? And I like
yeah,
the fact that you mentioning funded or not funded,
yeah,
because
sure.
performance marketing is affected by both approaches.
It is indeed. And I think to your point of like, if the website or the landing page just shouts about buy, while you want to sell, I often fade looking like, go through my experience and data in general. it's often counterproductive
Yeah.
because it just doesn't feel as natural as it maybe could be. What I find better is firstly, the product needs to be explained well. People that putting things in the basket, they need to be reassured with putting products in the basket, need to be reassured with confidence messaging, such as, quick shipping, or, 4 out of 5 stars, or 5 out, whatever it is, all these sort of little messaging, etc. Testimonials as well, ideally at this checkout stage, which often helps lift people like, oh yeah, I'm in the right space. Oh yeah, that was the right decision, etc. Depending on the price point of the product, like I've just referred to that same brand I used to work for, we added a pricing plan because the price point it wasn't high, but it wasn't low either. It wasn't your average $40 consumer Amazon product, right? It wasn't like that. It was a couple of hundreds. So, but for the benefit you get out of it, it's priceless, right? So we added pricing plans through Klarna and a few other payment providers. And that helped, because people are not committing straight away to the full amount. They, pay in stages, these sort of things. So you've got this one. It is also just having just clear instructions, like literally, this is where you put your details. Next step is the credit card details. Third step is shipping, whatever, just very basic. And often, why it seems simple, and I've heard this many times, I've spoken to many people about this, is like, if you can explain your website, your service, the user journey to a 5-year-old, and basically guiding that person through it, and they understand how to select the product and purchase a product.
Idiot proof. Yeah.
And then that's how easy website has to work. And I know consumers these days becoming a lot more tech savvy, and therefore you kind of expect them to know everything, right, left, and center, etc. And there is some degree to this, but it doesn't mean you have to make your website sound more difficult and more jargon, and just make it really easy, straightforward. And the biggest sort of things I feel don't really work is if you have standalone landing pages. So often enough, you can build through a variety of platform providers where you just buy just a pure landing page and drive traffic to. Well, there are a couple of issues there. It's a quality, it's very short-lived. You can't really build up momentum, etc., etc. And there's zero trust in it, zero SEO anyway, but also you wouldn't do it for the SEO. I understand that. But at the same time, it's so short-lived. So it'd be better to have a landing page that you can't access from the main navigation on the main domain. I call this a PPC only landing page, but people can land on there with all the details and all the bling bling and all the right buttons and all the right call to actions. But then if they feel the need, they want to dip into the main site, they wouldn't know any different, by the way. Then they can, in order to encourage the trust, etc. They might want to find out more about the company, where they're based, reading testimony, watching explainer videos, whatever it may be, right? So that to me is quite a good one. So having a standalone landing page inside the domain with the right call to action, testimonials, confidence messaging, maybe even payment plan, depending on how high or low your product is in terms of costings, and that usually works quite well. And then obviously it's sort of looking at the data, because I'm coming from a very data heavy background anyway throughout my career, so I'm always interested in, like, even so I might suggest, put the button there, the call to action there, the copy there, the product there, the image there, the whatever, and then we look at all the variables and see how they perform. And then often you find, like, subtle changes by just moving things above the fold that are eye-catching or must-knows, change the whole game, and your conversion rate goes from 2% to 2.5% by just doing those minor changes, which could be make or break for some startups, right? And it is, it's all those little things. And also the other, I guess, side of this one is the performance marketing traffic in the first place, to some degree, can only do so much. I do believe there's a 50-50 share here. The first 50% is bringing the right people on the site, but then the site needs to be able to convert the traffic to the sale, right? So I do feel, and I've discussed this many times in my career, and I think people on the whole are on that one. That's why I sort of, for the most part, I'm very I'm passionate about, okay, well, we're building those campaigns, we optimize them to the max, we bring in the right audience. Once the audience land on your site, the site needs to do X, Y, and Z, literally. And the traffic, and then play around with the features we may have on the site in order to convert the traffic. So I think that needs to be thought about, and there needs to be flexibility and resources and some level of commitment from the website owner or the brand owner to accommodate that traffic and maybe change a little bit the site here and there in order to make its traffic work better. Because a few dot percentage changes, not whatever, it could be make or break.
Yeah, it's the biggest point for me is the simplicity, which you mentioned. And one of the other points which I think might also be key is the concept of, and no, there's no time to discuss that about now, but the concept of looking at content personalization as much as possible.
Yeah.
There are tools out there that can do that can help you personalize content based on even the search keyword or the whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
So you looking at all those things can really help to convert the traffic. And I like the way you mentioned, of course, you're experienced that it's from 2% to 2.5%. Because the average listener want to say from 2% to 4%. It doesn't happen like that, unfortunately. So
Yeah, no, it doesn't happen overnight, but
exactly.
websites can convert. They don't need to just convert at 1.5% or 2%. They can convert at 5%. It really doesn't matter looking at the data. And often enough, as you say, there are hundreds of tools for doing different things. And they're all reporting slightly different. So you need to have your source of truth that you compare the channels against, and then be it Google Analytics, be it whatever tool you might use, right?
Yeah.
Paid for, whatever it may be, but find your source of truth and kind of benchmark the channel performance against that source. And then try. I think A/B testing is a very undervalued method
It is.
in our industry, because it's like how to do it, what tool to use. Can't we just do this because we believe it? And that's all great. You might, and me and the brand owner, we might all have an opinion. Put it there, change it here, etc.
Yeah.
That's based on 2 people.
Yeah.
Not 1,000 people in the space of, let's say, 4 days. Is the data you get out of this sample is way more reflective than 2 people thinking, oh, we should do this, etc. So, and that can make
Operate, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I have one other important question, but I think it would be nice for us to have some fun right now. So we do have what we call the dots rapid fire. It's a very, very hot fire.
so.
Performance marketers are mostly immune to this because they are kind of in the weeds of magic, right? I want sales, I can do it, and if I can't do it, my life is on the line, kind of a thing. So I don't see that you have any problem with this, but you will say the truth in 3 questions. So help you God. Are you ready?
All right, let's go.
First one, what is your favorite marketing metric apart from sales or revenue?
CPA.
Oh, yeah. Do you measure CPA at the CRM level at your end? Do you have customers that are able to enable you do that?
I do it at engine level and CRM or, SQL level, service qualified.
SQL, yeah, got it. Yeah. That because that's the most important as well. Not just what you see on those ad networks. Okay, cool. Second question, how long do you use social media every day for work?
Not that long, actually. I'd say maybe half an hour.
Oh, nice. What do you do?
Very, very, very little, very little. And that would be me maybe researching, following some industry leaders, and then be it. So I'm trying to really balance my time there, because otherwise I just burn my time, the time I have per day in social media, which I don't want to.
Yeah, I know. No, that's good. That's good. 30 minutes is awesome. I'm like 30 minutes to an hour, and that's because you also have a team that helps me out. So when you see stuff on social media and be like, this guy doesn't work, But yeah. Okay. Last question on the rapid fire. What is your favorite marketing quote?
Oh, okay. I think there are quite a few. What's my favorite marketing quote?
Or business quotes?
Or
Some
business
I
quotes?
would allow life quotes too, but that would be the
Okay. Well, here's a good one I quite like. I've got a few quotes here, if that helps, and maybe I share a few quotes. One is like, if you risk nothing, you risk everything. I think the notion of this one is just go out there and try, alongside my main business. I've got a few other side projects, and it's very fulfilling just to be, you do things and be able to pull them off and, you know, uh, and just execute,
And even if
so
you even if you fail, you've learned a lesson, right? And you can move forward. So people are always afraid to try, which is quite unfortunate, because they don't want to be wrong. So that's another topic for another day.
yeah,
But very,
indeed.
very good quote. That's been my guiding principle this year.
Yeah,
Okay, so the last question before I let you go, um, is looking at growth potentials. I want you to answer this like answering a rapid fire, because agencies and Google or Facebook ad support, they always wanted to spend more money, right? So, but you have a brand, they've been doing, I don't know, $50 a day. Now you think the brand is ready to do $100 a day. What are the pointers? How do you know that it's time to do that? How do you know that it's time to scale? How do you know that a brand from a performance marketing perspective? And I know we're doing a little bit of PPC here, but performance marketing, there's also like SEO in there as well, and anything that is hard at you marketing. But how do you know when it's time to scale? How do you spot things like diminishing returns and things like that from your own experience?
sure. I think there are a few answers to this one, and scaling, definitely having worked with startup is a huge thing, right? You start somewhere, find your feet, and then, okay, Stefan, can we scale? Can we scale? Can we scale? Right? And then it's down to me to decide whether we can or we can't. So
Yeah.
for the most part, I'm looking at different signals. One is like, well, if we want to scale, that means obviously the budget is there. Okay, so it's not a budget question.
Yeah.
Then for the most part, it will come down to testing. When I find that there's enough data in the account and there's enough to not risk, but to play with, to increase spend caps and maybe launching more campaigns, to starting to scale things up.
Yeah.
If I see, and permitting we've got enough conversion data, there's a rule of thumb like 30 over 30 days kind of thing. Ideally, I'd like to have a little bit more.
Yeah.
Then it comes down to testing. And if that ROAS doesn't follow through, or if the leads doesn't follow through, or the CPA won't follow through immediately because you will always burn some cash to begin with, but as long as the trend is there. If that sort of happens where you spend more, well, then there's a place to upscale. So that would be like based on data, right? The testing based on data. Then there's seasonality. So
Yeah.
I work with a few travel startups in my career, and it was literally like this, right? You had Boxing Day, literally millions.
Yes.
That was like sort of fading away by mid-January.
Yeah. I
Then you
work
had a
with
bit of,
I work with a tennis company, and they only go viral during tennis tournaments. So we increase
oh,
the
interesting. Yeah. So
yeah.
seasonality is a big thing, right? Then you've got nothing for that. Well, nothing is a bit exaggerating, but a lower period around spring, and then summer, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then dies down again to Christmas, etc. So different industry, different seasonalities, etc., etc. We totally get this. So you need to be ready with your fundamentals and your setup. Be ready before seasonality hits.
Yeah.
And then I guess the other element would be to have flexibility and resources to, like, the additional traffic you suddenly drive by spending more and capturing the demand of that seasonality is to
Mm.
make sure you've got, room and wiggle room and leeway on the side to play with new stuff, whether that's new content, whether
Yeah.
there's conversion rate optimization, whether that's um, just maybe even restructuring elements of it in order to make it flow better. Those are important things, because again, there's no point shouting loud about a product when a site can't convert, in the most simple thing. It doesn't matter how good the product might be. If the site can't convert, as we're specifically touching on sites, then that'd be wasted media spend. You'd be better off putting this into either another channel, but probably not performance marketing, because all you do is buying high intent traffic to convert on your site. So that journey that's not much about storytelling. That's all about, very much like, we're solving this issue. We're providing this solution. I'm
Yeah.
here and buy it. That's ultimately, because if somebody comes, like, they need like an emergency locksmith, let's just say, right? They only want to read an ad about this emergency locksmith with a light landing page and then out of hours call hotline, whatever, right? Immediately. They don't care if whatever they're called or how big the brand is. They want those people now, right? So in a nutshell, PPC needs to serve almost that immediately. Now, depending on the brand and the industry, that varies a little bit because the click to purchase time can vary, from like an hour to a few days to much longer period for like high-end products. I
Mhm.
guess at all of the time, the higher the product price point, the longer the click to purchase time length is. So they're different. I'd say those three criteria I was considering when are you ready? If I had to answer the question of like, are we ready to scale it, Stefan? I'd be like, yeah, okay, let's just check over those three things and cool, let's do it, And then also on the flip side, just to add to this one,
Yeah.
while you are scaling, and you might realize, oh, we see a bit of an uplift in terms of performances, but suddenly what you might also find is like, why you keep scaling spend,
Yeah.
the performance will drop it off at some point. That often
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, no, it's I think that's another mistake, Stefan. People always think if I increase the budget by 2, then I'll increase the leads by 2. It sometimes doesn't happen that way. There's always a lift, which is good.
There's always like a sweet point, right? There's always
Yeah.
that moment where like, okay, I can't spend more to make more. So therefore,
Yeah.
that walked out the next level, And that will always, and doesn't matter how big the brand or the business is, there will always be that sweet spot. And your job with Google is and acquiring traffic. There's, for the most part, there's always enough traffic to push you to the next level,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, very, very great. Thanks for sharing a lot of examples. I always like when guests share examples. But yeah, this has been a very, very great one. For those who are starting out with marketing, demand, performance, and and you've got a startup that you need to scale as quickly as possible. So thank you so much for sharing all this wisdom. And I would like to, have you share, places where people can find you and learn more, not just about this topic, but about, what you do in contributing to the marketing world.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on my website, which is called Click, as in Q, there it is, QLICK.xyz, which is the space where I'm offering my marketing services. You can find me, you can find my business site on Instagram, at ClickXYZ. I'm also on Instagram under my actual name, Stefan Bercher, and all the usual places. I must say, there's not a lot of content there, which I've been, producing for the Meta, but that's something I want to change,
Yeah.
as part of my sort of, I guess, personal brand building, etc.
Yes.
Which I think is important. I also always feel like I must do this work first. I must do this client work first, right? That's always how I'm thinking. And then the challenge is I never get to my own personal brand building,
Yeah.
And I've been sort of, it's a bit of a reoccurring, thingy to me that like every few months, oh, I was meant to do this. I was meant to post there. I was meant to post the LinkedIn, etc. Obviously, you can find me on LinkedIn as well, which is probably out of all the networks, is probably the one platform I'm active the most, for
Yeah.
obvious reasons, because it's business related. I always follow industry leader and sort of keep myself up to date on there for the most part, because I think
Yeah.
that's quite helpful. And the LinkedIn audience in general, they're a nice bunch of people. They're all like, I'm not just saying this one. I just
Yeah.
like whenever I'm on there or comment or have a chat with someone, etc. It's just like because we're all business minded and we're all wanting to help each other. And often, yes, 50% of the times it was a wasted conversation, but the other 50% make up for the wasted conversations. And whereas on the other social media platforms, you don't really get that, right? Because it's not business focused for the Meta. And rightly so, it doesn't need to be this way. But for me, for the little bit of time I have on social, which is, as you said, like half an hour here, maybe an hour stretch, and then, and then I'm off again. If I have that little time, I'd rather use it on one platform, where I'm highly likely to get the most out of it, which in my case would be LinkedIn. So you can find me on there under my name.
Yes. And by the time this episode comes out, you'll find lots of content from Stefan because now.
Hey, you know what? That's a good challenge to me. I appreciate that.
Yes, yes, exactly. So guys, that's all we have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to find more, it's on my website, .slotmarketing.com. You can also subscribe to the Marketing Leadership Podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Till next time, connect the dots.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Dots Loves Marketing. There will be links to any resources mentioned in today's show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.